Hey everyone, how you doing today? Thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about one of my favorite guitar players of all time, of course, Jeff Beck. And so first let me play this track and we'll dig in. I'm going to mute my mic here and we'll get rolling. Yes. That one fades out faster than I remember. Okay. All right. So, how's it going, everyone? Thanks for joining me today. All right. So, I'm out of tune because I was using the bar in the old Strat. So let's check that out. I don't usually play the Beck stuff, but this guitar just sounds so good. And that G string went out of tune. All right. So first of all, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Little note. I am not going to be here next week. I'm going down to True Fire to shoot 2, maybe 3 courses, the time allotting. And some of the courses are based upon a lot of things we kind of talked about here. I'm shooting a beginning blues course. I actually find a lot of people have contacted me by email have said, all your courses are kind of intermediate to a little more advanced or to more advanced. So this is really going to be a beginning blues course, but you know, with tunes that you can actually use, important stuff. So I think it'll be good. I hope it'll be good. It'll be good. And so I won't be here next week, so I'm gonna have another week off. And just during this show for today, my course over at brettpapa.com, my British Blues Masters, featuring Jeff Beck, Eric Clapton, David Gilmour, and who's the other guy? Just had a little brain fart. Oh yeah, and Jimmy Page. If you enter Jeff35, you get 35% off just for today over at brettpapa.com, 35% off. Okay, so let's talk about some of your stuff, some of the stuff I'm playing here. First of all, this track is a little bit of a takeoff from a tune called 3 Wishes off of the Amused to Death record by Roger Waters. If you are not familiar with that record, I highly recommend it. I think it's one of Roger Waters' best solo records, and Jeff Beck is on it, and he's on most of the tunes. And I actually think it's some of Jeff Beck's best playing. It's so good, so good. So I highly recommend that record. There's a really cheesy video for this song called 3 Wishes, but you know, it was the 80s, so I mean, it wasn't like, you know, Duran Duran cheesy, but close. So, all right, so I'm in C minor. And I also want to talk about some general Beckisms, things that I really have stolen or borrowed from him. Now, he's one of those guys I really try to go out of my way not to sound like, because he's such an influence on me. You know, like there's guys like, you know, Stevie Ray for a lot of people. Jeff Beck is one of those guys for me. And so using the bar, and I really try to avoid doing that stuff, because I remember being on a gig, and I mean this in all humility, some guy's like, hey man, you sound exactly like Jeff Beck. And I'm like, well, first of all, no I don't. I'm not that good and original and cool. But, you know, I don't want somebody to say that. So, just to let you know, the idea is not to sound exactly like him, but to steal some of the techniques, and I think you can really make them your own. So first thing, Beck plays with his fingers. He didn't usually, when he first started, for the past, I don't know, many years, 20 years, he's playing with his fingers. That's the thing you got to work on. So I'm going to show you some of the stuff with the pick and the fingers. We're primarily going to talk about some of the left-hand stuff. Yes, it does make a difference. Certain licks have a certain sound when you use your fingers and get that kind of sound. Your fingers do sound different than your pick. That being said, I do try to find picks. I do look for picks that sound as close to my fingers as possible. We've talked about this before. I do use the Diodario Black Ice. I think they're pretty good sounding. So like finger, pick. Right, some other picks can be very bright. Let me see if I just got this regular Fender Heavy. I'm missing some of this, so big. How much? I don't know if you can hear it, but I have a lot of delay. I'm gonna bring that delay down a little bit because it fit into the track really nicely. So, you know, like I was saying, it's up to you what picks you use, but I find sometimes experimenting that's really nice to get a different tone. All right, so back to what I was saying. Here I'm going to talk about first kind of lick. Now, the first thing that Beck would do, I'm in C minor, right? So the first thing that he does that I really loved stealing was bending to a note from below my pitch. And I did that a lot on here. So the first one we could take a look at without even using the bar. We could talk a lot about the bar, but I play Les Pauls a lot, as you guys know, and I don't use the bar, so I tried to work out some of these ideas without the bar. So the first thing, let's say I'm in C minor pentatonic, and my blue note would be this G flat. So what I did was I played that note and bent up the half step to the G, and I went. So we heard that in the track, really kind of gets a good thing. Hold on. It's live, guys. Here we go. All right. I'm going to play that lick a bunch of times. I can do it here. Right? So there, I'm thinking my blue note. I use this all the time. It sounds like Beck, sounds like a lot of people. Roy Buchanan. Some bending up my blue note up to the natural fifth of the scale. So in this case, it's G flat, F sharp, up to the G. And what this does is it gets that kind of cool, you know, Beck's pitch at times is perfect, but he gets all those microtones and all those different notes in between, and that's such a big part of it. So, right? That bend right there. So instead of going like there's something else going on there, which is totally cool. So, and I can also do it here. So I'm going to bend the G flat. So I'm singing in two different positions. I could do it here. So it's real control over the bend. I can call it quantized bending, right? So I'm thinking, if we do it right there, I can do the whole step. That's another thing that he would do as well. So there I'm going to bend up a whole step from F to G, down a half, then release. Let's do that one. All right, so I can do it all with my hands. Right? Right? So all that's some stuff that he does. Now it requires a lot of hand strength. I've worked a lot at this because it's hard. It's difficult to do because you got to get the hand strength. You have to get your ears in tune with getting these pitches, even in between. Sorry. That was terrible. So I can actually play the note and then bend. And then the vibrato. Right, so I'm going to bend up and then vibrato that note. Now, does it have to be the blue note? No. The other note that I did, I'm playing in C minor. I'm going to bend the 6 in this case. That's this great sweet sounding note, the A. I'm going to bend it up a half step to the B flat. So I'm bending the 6th of the scale, up a half step to the B flat, which is the flat 7. Watch this. Total Beck. Yeah. Now I'm doing that with my hands. He often will do that with the bar. Of course, he could do it with his hands because he started doing it that way before. But maybe like a bar. But the idea with the bar, you might do that a lot. But I'm trying to show you stuff that isn't dependent upon the bar. Because as cool as the bar is, and it is very cool to use it, you want to, you know, if you don't have the bar, you can still get these ideas. Okay, so. You can take a line. Right? That's my line. Just improvising this. Yeah. Yeah, sorry. Right, something like that. So I would have to work that out ahead of time to get the control over my hands. All right? So that's one of the big kind of Beck things. Choose a note a half step below your pitch. Of course, you could do it with any other pitch, but the half step allows you to get some cool vibrato ideas and in between pitches. David Gilmour does this quite a bit, as I talk about in that chorus too. 35% off. Again, I'm going to use my E flat, my flat third of the scale, and I am going to play the track and use that. Right? down the octave. So watch. That's my 2 to my flat 3. Those low notes. Okay, so bending to a note half step below the pitch in the scale. So in this key, I'm in C Dorian. My A to B, I can get that A to B flat, excuse me. I can get the blue note, which would be the G flat to the G. A great one, I'm bending to chord tones, as you may have noticed. C minor. The D, which is the second of the scale, up to the flat 3 of the chord. How about I do? Right, instead of going, or, yeah. So I can rephrase that, and I'm going to bend to some of those notes. Let's hear that. All right. Tricky, guys. It's really, really tricky, as you can, well, see. So the other way that Beck would do this similar kind of sound is with the bar. Now, there's a few things we have to discuss, I think, really when you're doing this, is it's important to the setup of the guitar, because it's really easy to, you know, have this go out of tune and all that. So this is my old Strat. It's set up to pull up a little bit, but it's free floating. That's the big key. So when I vibrato the pitch, I can bring the pitch up. How much do I bring it up on this? Almost the whole step. I don't go too crazy with this bar because it's original, right? But if I switch over to one of my tuttles, which are set much more floating, I'll talk about that in a second. So I have this, right, because since it's an original, I don't go too crazy on the bar in this. I just play it the way I would normally would, but if I know I'm going to be doing a ton of bar stuff, I'll probably use one of the tuttles because it'll stay in tune better because of the locking tuners, and then the floating, super floating bridge. We'll get to that. But the first lick is I'm going to go. This is kind of tricky. Now I'm going to hold the bar between I hold it to my pinky and my ring finger, and I push down that note. And what Beck does, if you notice that, it's almost like going, that. Right, those are the pitches that you're hearing. But he's using the bar to bring down the pitch, a distinct note, a half step. Right? So I'm doing. Now I worked it out with my hands because it's freaking cool. And I like a good challenge, so I spent a lot of time working on that. Replacing what I could do with the bar, because when I play my Les Paul, which is about half the time, I can use some of these same ideas. And it sounds slightly less like Jeff Beck if I go slightly. That's what I'm going. I don't know. Very similar, but that was kind of the idea, to be able to carry on some of these things like that. So I can go down. And this is where it's easier, I think, for Beck to not use the pick, because you're holding onto the bar and you can use your fingers. Those things are easier to get. Right? So it's like a slide. It's funny, I did an article in Guitar Player magazine many, many years ago on something called pseudo slide. I think you can probably still find it floating around. If I can, I'll just throw it on my website somewhere. On this, using the bar and replacement, you can see I've got all this hair in the picture. right? So that's the lick. It's going down to pentatonic scale. Now this lick, this particular one right here, excuse me, is in my course over at bedpapa.com on the British Blues Masters. Okay, so that's another one. So that's really important stuff to kind of get under your fingers. So the other thing that he does a lot is bending, right? So we're going to bend like this. Now he does that with the bar. It's kind of like almost Indian sounding with those quarter steps, but you can do it with your hands. Now you can do it with the bar, right? I have an easier time with my fingers. I'm not exactly sure how he does it. I haven't microscoped it too much, but that idea. Let's hear that in the track. It's a really cool sound. He does it in that great tune, Nadia, on that record. Where is my player? There we go. All right, so that's some kind of thing. Right? And I can use it with a bar, like, you know, I like the finger. Now one thing, I'm glad I made a little hit that note right there, right? Which is technically not good. But you know what I've discovered by practicing this kind of stuff? I've worked ways to get myself out of a pickle. But watch. Yeah, there we go. So a lot of times I'll hit a dud note, but learned by practicing these like little bends that I've got from Jeff Beck, how to work my way out of a corner like that. So a lot of that's just kind of being not afraid to mess up. Which brings me to another thing about Jeff Beck. The guy feels like he's totally free on the instrument. I've seen him pretty much every time he's come around over the past 20 years, just because, you know, you never know when he'll decide to stop touring or something like that. So I go every time. And it's great. He's always great. There's some nights are better than others, you know. But what I love about him is that he just goes for shit. You know, sometimes he doesn't make it, and I mean that respectfully, meaning like you could tell he's just going for something. And sometimes he kills it, and you're like, oh my God, how did he do that? And other times you're like, he will just miss it a little bit. But what I love is he was going for something. And when he plays, he's got some of the Beck-isms, but he's not predictable in my mind at all. He'll play something and it just kind of, you're like, well, I didn't expect him to play that. So, that cliche, but with him, I do expect the unexpected. Usually in every record, a few times in the night when he's playing, he'll do one or two things or more. All of it's amazing, but a few things like, wow, I didn't hear that one coming at all. You know, that's just really, a thing that I try to do. I try to think like, what would Jeff Beck do? Not in terms of how would I sound like Jeff Beck, but you could tell he just doesn't give a shit in the sense of he just plays what he wants and what comes out. All my favorite players are like that. You know, having you guys know play with Robin, that's one thing I learned from him. He's like, he just plays. I mean, obviously he's great, but he just plays. Schofield, both Matt and John, not related. You know, just guys that just play, and whatever happens in the moment, and it's kind of coming through and work, and it comes out. So those are a few things. Like, I mean, there's a million Beck things, but I do want to just, you know, say that the bending was the biggest thing that stuck with me. The idea of how each note is its own thing, right? You can approach any note in a number of ways. So that's really important to think about. So, I mean, there's the bar and there's the licks, but if we just think about the larger picture and what I feel like I got from him and Roy Buchanan and later guys like Michael Landau, who are clearly influenced by Jeff Beck, as we all are. And you know, stuff I learned from Eric Clapton and Hendrix and all this stuff. But I'm really just thinking, I'll play, there's my C. Well, I really like the sound of that C on the second string more, maybe if I'm playing a melodic phrase. Listen, things I think about. Well, why do I like that better? It's a little warmer, rounder. I mean, it still sounds good, but the thicker string. So if I'm going to play a melody, I'm going to take those things into consideration. And you know he does that, for sure. Where he picks on the guitar, what string he plays that note on. Most musicians, I think most guitar players I know who are really good, think about those kind of things. They think about, where should I play that note? So, okay, so I'm going to play the C here. Well, that's a little rounder and warmer, if I want that sound, which I probably generally do. Also, the string is a looser tension than the high string, so to get vibrato on it, I find to be easier. So, but, right, I can really kind of work that note a little easier. So, okay, we have a C note, right? So, we've talked about many of the breakdowns here, the lockdowns or broadcasts, whatever they are now. Maybe lockdowns again, is the way we can vibrato that note. So if I'm playing that track, right, I hold on to it. Or faster, wider, so they all say different things. So I'm going to think about, really think about how I want to vibrato that note. All right, so how about I get that note from a half step below? Let's see how that sounds. Right? The B is not a great note, but so by going from a half step below and bending to my pitch, I can bring it down a little out of tune in the way that we want to, right? We really can focus in on getting into the music and just, think of like, what I think about with Beck, like frets don't mean anything with him. And I just think that's so cool. Like his pitch is so great. And he doesn't ever tune the guitar the whole night. I wonder how it stays in so in tune, but I can just imagine his hands are so good that if he's a little out of tune, he just compensates as he's going along. I mean, I've heard that to be the case. I've never met him. I know some people who have. I look forward to hopefully meeting him at someday. But okay. All right, so I can go from a half step below. Like I said, I can really work that note. I'm just go right into that. So you have that slight bit of tension. So, okay, I'm having fun there, but I'm using the same idea. What do I do? Blues scale. Well, I'm going to bend all those. It's like Albert King. Same kind of idea, but, Right, so I'm just bending to each of the note that I wanted from a half step below. And then you get this really fluid sort of thing that we're sort of like, right? right? So I might do a lick on the slide, you know, and then like that kind of thing, try to match it up. But like I'm not saying, please understand that I'm not going, yeah, you just do this and, you know, by next week you'll have it. I've worked years on this. It's the control, it's time, it's patience, it's beaten the crap out of it. But my point is that the concept, and this is what I'm getting at, and I think it's the concept that is the big picture. And I don't know if this is how he thinks about it. I don't know. I've not spoken, you know, guitar and music with him. But to me, the concept is pretty simple. I'm going to take a note that is a half step below the note I want to fret, or I want to sound, and I'm going to bend to it. It can be a scale tone. It can be out of the scale, out of the key, but that can add other flavor to it. And the trick is to just make it work, right? So I'm going to go down to C Aeolian, no, C Dorian scale. I kind of messed it. There you go. Sorry. And I'm just going to go there and play each of those notes from a half step below. See how it sounds. So I've got. That's a tough one. Okay, let's hear that sound. Let's see if we can make that work. And this is what I do. I will do exactly this. Okay, let me see if I can make that work. And I'll spend a few hours on that. Okay, and I'll always end on the bent note. That's a tough one, but now, that one's tricky because you have a natural 3. That's pretty, I avoid that one. I like the natural 7, it'd be really rough and cool. Nope, don't hit that natural 3. All right, so. And then you mix those in with normal unbent notes. Right then, there's the bar step. Let's ignore that. That's all your hands, guys. You play Albert key step. Same kind of idea, but just phrased differently. Well, that was fucked up, but cool, right? I was gonna do it fast. Right? Yeah, I love that one. Okay, so double stop lick, right? Billy Gibbons. So watch. I just, instead of fretting the G, I bend up a half step from F sharp to G, and then my B flat. Right, so. Okay, so you guys can tell I spent a lot of time on this. And honestly, that's the only way to get it. I worked really hard to get into it. And then, like I said, I had to back off of it because I got so into it, I kind of lost myself in it. I'm glad what I gained out of it, I feel like, is a nice control over my hands, which this all comes down to. And then if I take my own approach to this, which is going to be hard to separate, but let's just, for fun, you know, let me just plug into, let's try Les Paul for a minute. Let's see how we can make this work. All right, live tuning, nothing but pro, nothing but professional. Don't forget, if you go to brettpapa.com, 35% off my blues course, my British Blues Masters, where I talk in depth about Jeff Beck. Okay, so. Right. Right, so I really wanted to be able to take that sound, which would normally be done with a bar, and move it over a guitar that does not have a bar on it. All right, so yeah. Right, so. Okay, now I'm playing pretty disjointed at the moment, but that's, sorry, my microphone's stuck here. You know, like that's just noodling, but how I would practice it, let's just, how I would practice it. Right, then just sit on that note. Now if I just bring it down. Right? Here's that A to B flat. Yeah. And take a mistake and try to make it work. So, I know I'm repeating myself, but kind of important, that I'm just playing that one idea and just think about how many ways I can milk it and where are the different positions of it. That's important. There's that blue note. You know, where can you get the bend out of it, which is comfortable? So you're like, and this can kind of get into those fake slide things, you know? You're like, that you hear like, well, I do that a lot. And, you know, it's kind of a thing that people just emulating a slide without a slide. All right, so hopefully this has been kind of helpful. Get some questions. I could go on about this forever, but that was the kind of the main thing I wanted to talk about was getting the sound under your fingers. Also, let's just talk a little bit about the gear, as I said I was going to. So first thing, like I said, I was not using the bar for that stuff. That's all kind of the bends coming from your fingers. One thing that's kind of important, if you have a really, really clean tone with no sustain, it doesn't help, right? So when you listen to Jeff Beck, even when he's playing clean, like super clean, he does have a fair amount of compression on it. If you think about, boy, I'm just so bad with the names of his songs. But there are songs where he's playing clean, and usually he's got compression. Now what that does will make the note sustain longer. So he can do the stuff with the bar, you know, the melodies with the bar and things like that. if you're on a clean tone, and that'll make the note sustain longer. All right, so I've got more of a pull on this one, so I can do something like a little buzzy on this one. Right, those kind of things where he's doing the melody with the bar. That's because my bar is floating, and this one I can pull up. I can even pull up my other one higher. Hold on. I don't have it set to pull up too high. I don't always love the way it feels on my right hand, but this one can go higher. Right, so I did that one on purpose in this guitar, so I can really kind of go nuts on it. So what I've worked on, I'm off topic again. What it's done for me though, is just like as it worked on individual finger strength and getting my ears ready. All right, so if I'm playing overdriven, which I'm doing right now, I am playing through my 2-rock today. Doesn't really matter, you know. It's funny when you find out what Beck plays through. Plays through Marshall. He plays through anything that's kind of in the studio, so I've been discovered. So I've just got a nice kind of overdriven sound. Right? And another thing I'm doing, and this is a very common Strat thing, when I'll do a video on talking about Strats, I have a tone knob on my bridge pickup. So Beck's bridge pickup is always a little darker, right? It doesn't have that real, like, you know, especially if I'm playing a Strat, it's not that real bitey bridge pickup, so I just have the tone rolled back a bit. That's another thing he'll do. You use the tone knob. All right, now I'm getting off the topic. So I have a little bit of I've got a fair amount of overdrive, and then I have on top of it, I want to get those notes to really ring. I'm just boosting the front end of the 2-rock. Right, so I can count on the amp to give me the sustain. But also, I have it set, it's not so gainy, it's not super high gain where I'm not getting any dynamics out of the note. It'll clean up great when I roll back my overdrive, when I roll back the volume. Yeah. Right, so I can bring that back up. All right, so I also have a delay and reverb on. Those are those are actually digital that are in the aux itself. The reverb on a 2-rock is great, but it's a spring reverb and it's totally awesome, but the big plate reverb fit the tune better. And, wait, can you hear Mr. Softy outside? The truck is driving by. Hold on, I'm just going to run and get some ice cream. Okay. And a delay, since I'm using the amp distortion, the delay is on the aux, so it's after the effect. I'm going to run a clean tone. Now that's the overdrive of the amp. Here's my clean tone. Now here's the overdrive pedal. Right, so I can do that, you know. That's the delay on my floor. Same overdrive. But you know what's funny? I try to make them sound as close to each other as I possibly can. All right, some questions. Jason Carter, can you repeat what you did when you bent the string behind a nut? Yeah, sure. That's an old sort of Telecaster trick. What I'm doing there is I just played a G harmonic and I went, all right. Can't really do it on Gibsons because you don't have that clearance underneath the string between the nut and the fingerboard or the guitar neck. So, right. You can play an E major chord, watch. You can play E minor, top 3 string, you can bend the string behind a nut in a half step. Right? So what I did was I played a harmonic and I bent behind. And so I played that melody. Right up. Right? So that's all I'm doing right there. In all strings. It's easiest on the G and the B because you have the most play. See? Doesn't really go that much, but good whole step. And then get a lot of play out of that G string. All right, so that was that. All right. Let's see. Hey, Marco, what's going on? Marco Fantone is online. You guys should check out Marco's channel. He does a lot of great stuff. I was a guest on his channel a month or two ago. My good friend Hermano. And Marco does some great interviews and playing. And he also was very helpful to me when I got my FM3 to kind of figure out how to get some sounds out of it. So good stuff. Thank you, Marco. I should say hi to everybody. Jim C, of course, Phil Mingan, of course, here, as always. San Samos, Graham. Hey, Bealey, what's up, man? I saw a top chat somewhere. I do want it. Who gave me the top chat? Crap. It's here somewhere. I'm sorry, I was playing when it came in, so I'm looking for it. Hey, Phil, do you know who gave me the top chat? Whoever it is, I thank you so much for the top chat. I was playing when it came in. I made a note to remember who. Oh, Bealey. Thank you. It was Bealey. Hey, Bealey. Well, thanks so much, man. Yeah, you know, very Scott Henderson. Yes, Scott Henderson, clearly influenced by Jeff Beck, and he would say so himself. And he does the same thing where he uses the bar for a melody, or, you know. So you got to be careful. It's addictive, for sure. That I'll say for sure. Any compressor pedal recommendations? Not really. Well, the best one that I've tried, I don't usually use a compressor. The Cali 67, it's expensive. David Grissom loves it. He doesn't really like compressors either. So if David loves it, you know it's got to be great. A lot of slide players. I think Joey Landreth and all those guys are using it. If you want affordable, that's more expensive. A nice, relatively inexpensive one is the Exotic one. I like it because it's got a blend knob. You have your clean signal, you can blend in the amount of compression you want. I like that. So that works well for me when I use it, you know. Okay, the closer I get to the nut, the more I struggle with bends. Is it hand strength or just a different technique? It's a good question. Hand strength, just practicing. You know, and I'm really manhandling the stuff down there. Thumbs over the top of the neck. I reinforce the bends with my other fingers for sure. Right, so if I'm bending that G, it's like, it's not just my pinky, it's a bunch of fingers behind it. So, really reinforcing that bend. Oh, another great question. This is from Graham. No, where was it? I'm looking here. Oh, Phil Jones. Could you show us quickly where and how you stash your pick when you go back and forth between finger picking? Great question. When I'm playing, you know, with the pick, which I do, now a lot of times I'll hybrid, right? So, like that. All that, that's all my middle finger, actually. It looks like I'm picking. I found out Scott Henderson talked about that. He does this too. And I know Grissom does it a lot too. So it actually looks like you're picking, but you're using your middle finger actually. But I will obviously hybrid pick. But if I'm going to grab the pick and I want to use my fingers, I do. Hopefully it's focusing on this move, where kind of pick ends up being here in my fingers. It's a little bit like a magic trick. But you can practice that off of the guitar. All right. I found this to be a little bit of a problem when I was playing, I tried those blue chips, which are way too expensive, but great sounding picks, and they're smaller than a regular Jazz 3. That was a problem because I kept on dropping it, and I remember losing one on a gig. I was using the blue chip on a gig, was Robin, and it bounced off to the stage into the audience. I was like, it was like $25 that just disappeared. So that was my first and only attempt at using blue chip picks. And so I got the black ice, which I think sound very much the same. Okay, so that's where the finger goes, right here, like this. Sorry, the pick goes between the strings. I'm just making sure. Unless Phil texts me while I'm doing it. Nope, okay. So sometimes the pick goes between the fingers here, like that. And I just kind of play with them like that. And when I want to grab it, I just kind of do this move like that. It takes a little practice, and I have dropped picks doing it. Not in a while, but you got to get used to it, you know. Could you recommend some essential Jeff Beck albums? Oh yeah, sure. My favorite, I would say, is There and Back. Some people might say Wired or Blow by Blow, but There and Back is my favorite, actually. I just love the tunes on that record and the playing. I just think it's spectacular. There's different periods of Jeff Beck. He was always amazing, but he became really amazing in the 70s. You know, I mean, he was always great. Yardbirds, you know, think about Heart Full of Soul. That down, down, you know, that's him playing that on guitar, which you got to think was like 1960, somebody tell me, 64, 65, early, 66 maybe, super early to get that sound, which is really great. So I love the Jeff Beck group. Man, I love those records with Rod Stewart. And it was Ron Wood on bass. I love the way Ron Wood plays bass on those records. Then after that, the other Jeff Beck group records was like Going Down on them, and then there's Beck, Bogart, and Peace. I like those records too. And then I kind of moved into the fusion period with Wired, There and Back. No, Wired, Blow by Blow. I think Blow by was first, then Wired. I can't remember. And then There and Back. So to me, those are the big three. Of course, there's Guitar Shop, which is amazing. Guitar Shop only suffers a little bit, not from playing. The production on it is very much of the 80s. So sometimes I find it less easy to enjoy that record as much as the 70s ones, which just sound like a live band, right? You know, the 80s drums, the gated drums with Terry Bozzio. But man, the song Where Were You on that? I mean, he really reached that point of using the bar stuff. Then if we jump ahead, those are the big ones for me. And his latest one, Emotion and Commotion, I think he plays really amazingly well on. Highly recommend that record too. So if you wanted to dive into one, for me, it's There and Back. Then get all of them. All right. The Exotic XP. Thank you very much, Michael Cope, Cali76. Thank you very much. Okay. Jimmy Ray Hawkins. All right, thanks for being here. I'll see you soon. He's got to go. Hey, Keith. Keith from 5 Watt World is here. All right. Are you doing any touring or shows this year? I am supposed to go to the Czech Republic in March, and then maybe tag on some other stuff in Europe after that. We'll see how everything goes. I don't know. We'll see. But New York, I'm not doing anything until the fall, because, you know, August in New York, and nobody goes to gigs anyway. And I think people are getting a little skittish again, maybe. I don't know. And then I just booked a Robin last night, and we're probably going to try to do something in New York together at the bitter end in January. We're just trying to figure, it's so hard to play what's going on. That people want to plan stuff, and it's hard to plan anything right now. But so Czech Republic in March as it stands. And maybe something in Italy coming up. I'll let you guys know. All right. All right, I'm looking here. Live at Ronnie Scott's, totally great record. You know, I mean, all of it's great. I mean, it's Jeff Beck. It's all great. Any more questions, guys? No questions. I like my questions today. Okay, so I would say, if you're digging into it, The bar is a big part, but don't forget he wasn't using the bar on there and no, blow by blow, right? He was playing a Les Paul at that point. So, you know, think about stuff like that. It doesn't have to be like Jeff Beck, oh, the bar, but there's so much more to him than that. Other little kind of observations. I'll get to ZZ Top in a minute. Somebody's asking about Rich and Zara about going on with Dusty. You know, Beck doesn't play much rhythm guitar now. So this is something about like he and say like Mark Knopfler, who's another of my favorite guitar players, who does not play with a pick. Their rhythm guitar playing is very particular nowadays. Like if you listen to early Jeff Beck group, he's playing, you know, he's playing the riff. You know, I got a lot of effect on from that ballad, but you know, he's really digging in playing rhythm guitar with a pick. Since he doesn't play with the pick anymore, think about it. It's really hard to go, you know, chugga 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 like that. Like, not that he did that, but so he's worked around his rhythm guitar playing like Mark Knopfler has to play without a pick. So the funny thing is when you watch Beck play on the gig, you realize he's not really playing much rhythm in a traditional sense. It's a lot of, you know, like little kind of partial chords or things with his hand, you know. Right, that kind of thing. So when you learn Beck tunes, it's very kind of fun to go, oh wow, he's really not playing much rhythm on this at all. So go to YouTube, especially when you see the live clips, you're like, oh, it's pretty sparse, like I said, when you watch Mark Knopfler play tunes. Like in Sultans of Swing, Knopfler's just kind of playing those fills and like, you know, little, you know, like he's not doing the strummy stuff. Just something to point out. This is from Pan. It's very interesting. Jeff Beck has a lot of rockabilly influence in part of his sound. Any tips on the rockabilly stuff? Maybe another stream. You know, my rockabilly stuff is completely limited. I would highly recommend my good friend, if you have any True Fire stuff, Jason Laughlin, who's great at that stuff. So my rockabilly is just kind of from listening to Jeff Beck, you know, and the Uptown Playboys. Is that the record? Where he did all those Gene Vincent tunes. So yeah, and a lot of those guys, Hank Marvin, they were really into that. Especially Hank Marvin was big on the English guitar players because he was English, you know, and they were watching Hank Marvin on TV, much like we would have been watching, who that would have been at the time. I don't know, Carl Perkins or something like that, maybe the equivalent. I don't have a big rockabilly background. I can fake it on a gig or two for a song or two, but it's pretty full of fake for me. I'll just put on a slapback delay and it'll be fine. All right, yeah, you're waiting for that night Jeff and Robin hit the bitter end with this. You know, I'm trying to pin down Robin with it. He's just got some other touring to do. He's got to be careful. You know, when he wants to come in, I was talking about last night. He's feeling same as a lot of people are. They're not sure what's going to happen. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world, as you know. So it's really tough to book out gigs ahead of time. So we're working on it. It'll happen for sure, and you'll be the first to know. Okay. Yeah, Cliff Gallup was one of Jeff Beck's heroes for sure. All right, how do I feel about ZZ Top going on without Dusty? Well, first of all, I do want to bring up Dusty Hill, and you guys know I just completely love ZZ Top, like one of my favorite bands of all time. And I got into them later in life, like, because I don't know if I talked about this. You know, in the 80s, it was the MTV stuff, and I was around for all of that. And, you know, those tunes never really did it for me because it was the stuff. But then it was weird. I used to love songs like LaGrange and Cheap Sunglasses and things. And I never made the connection that it was the same band. Like, I just didn't really pay attention until one day I was like, wait a minute, that really great tune, Cheap Sunglasses, is ZZ Top like the same as the Sharp Dressed Man guy? So, you know, then I went into and got into all those old records, and holy crap, they're so good. And they've just re-released it, or they just showed it. It's on my website. I put it on there, or on my Facebook page. The Live at the Rock Palace from 1980. I highly recommend you check that out. ZZ Top at the height of their powers. How do I feel about them going on without Dusty? I don't know. I can't say. Like, you know, maybe he was just like, hey, just keep on going on without me. You know, I don't know any of them. You know, I don't. It feels weird to me because, I mean, in any situation, Dusty Hill is one of the greatest rock and roll singers. I mean, think about Tush, right? And not Waiting on the Bus. Did he sing that? Yeah. Have mercy. Well, if it was Beer Drinkers and Hellraisers, right? If it were just Tush alone, one of the great rock and roll tunes of all time, and he sang it. So, you know, that alone, and the way he played bass, is just killer. You know, the choreographed moves and all those things. So is it, to me, ZZ Top without him anymore? Not really. But, you know, it's not for me to say. You know what I mean? I think that, you know, they got enough money. It's not like, maybe they just want to keep on playing. And one thing that resonated with me, you know, Clapton's gotten himself into a lot of hot water, and I don't want to get into any of that discussion. But he did have one thing that he did say that resonated with me. He's like, I don't know how much longer I can play. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be around. So I do want to get out and play the kind of music I like for an audience that is aging. And, you know, I understood what he was saying. You know, he's still got people want to hear him play while he can still play, and he's got hand issues. So if ZZ Top feels that way, that they want to keep on going on and play music for their fans as long as they can, because that's what they love to do, who am I to say anything other than great, you know? And if it's got Dusty's blessing, if had he known, or Dusty's wife, or, you know, why not? I don't, like I said, I kind of got out of some of the, I'm not saying that you are or anybody is, you know, if you're not in the people's shoes, you know, who am I to say? I can't say. It's like, you know, with Pink Floyd and Roger Waters and David Gilmour always bickering with each other. I'm like, could you guys just shut up and get back together again, please? You know, like, makes me crazy, but what am I going to do about it, you know? All right. That's my little soapbox about that. Okay. All right, guys. Just real quick. How do you get like a Jeff Beck guitar sound? You know, yeah, I'm using expensive gear. I'm very fortunate. It doesn't matter. Good overdrive pedal, delay pedal, you know. For someone like him and anybody, it's really in his hands, of course, as we know. All the bar stuff, you know, one thing that is very clear, and I say this all the time, one thing that's very clear to me about Jeff Beck is that he practices a lot when sometimes he doesn't. He talks about like when he's going on the road, before he goes on the road, he doesn't play at all. He's just building cars. But then I've heard things say when people talk about him that like, but when he knows he's got a tour coming up, then he spends a ton of time playing guitar. And he's just one of those guys. He's just magic when he plays. But anything that he's done, I feel like what I try to grab from him, besides the technical things of like these bends, is sometimes I just try to throw caution to the wind and just go for some stuff, because I believe that that's what he's doing. Because I can't imagine some of the things that he does, he worked out because they seem so like the seat of the pants. Maybe they are by seat of the pants. I don't know. But, you know, hell, it sounds like it's just pure music coming out of him. And the only way you get to that point is if you know your instrument really, really well. And he's one of those guys that I first saw, and it struck me, is that the guitar has become an extension of who he is. He could be playing any other instrument, I think. When you see him play guitar, it's just, you know, those guys, when they play, they're just total control over it, completely comfortable with the instrument. He knows it inside and out. He knows everything about it. He knows, you hear a drill? Yeah, my neighbor is drilling. That's pretty funny. These things are pretty sensitive. Yeah, my neighbor's drilling next door. Hey, shut up. New York, party walls. All right, so there we go, right against the wall. I'm gonna go over there and tell him, don't you know I'm on air? Someone didn't pay the ice cream man, right? Oh, you know, one other thing that I think this is a great bit of advice that I think I could give to you. And I think I heard Larry Carlton talk about it. in one of his instructional videos ages ago. So he said, I always have the guitar on me, and just always have the guitar on you, like as much as you can. If I'm watching TV, I have the guitar in my hand, whether I'm even practicing it or not. You know, like I just, like I'm just sitting here with the guitar in my hand. But it gives me the proximity to the instrument. Just, and if I'm practicing scales or just playing, there's always, when I can, there always is one in my hand. It's on the couch. They're all over the place, out and ready to play at all times. If you put a guitar in a case, excuse me, you'll never play it, right? So for me, they're always out. So boom, I can pick it up, and I have, you know, some nice guitars, but it doesn't matter. I just, you know, I have, if the Les Paul were in the closet, I wouldn't go into the closet and dig it out. I would have it out. So I know some people have some space issues, or I've had students say like, well, my wife doesn't, I'm like, wait a minute. Like, the guitar stays out. Okay, maybe you don't have 20 of them out depending on your space, but if it's not out, then you're digging it out of the closet and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. S.E. Nesbitt. There's only one player that I saw with that total level of mastery was McCoy Tyner. Yeah, sure. Well, look, I you know, personally, Robin Ford, totally that level of mastery of the instrument. There's just what he thinks comes out. You know, any of those guys, having seen Ron Carter play and play with Ron Carter, Miles Davis. Oh, keyboards. You know, in the quartet with Miles Davis. Ah, can't believe my brain today. So anybody who has that kind of feeling, Pat Metheny, of course, Schofield, and I think about the great guitar, you know, like even John Mayer. Like I'd say even John Mayer is a great guitar player. When you watch John Mayer play, that guy, you can tell that guy plays all the time. You can't play that way unless you play all the time. All right, so I was going to bring up one last thing. I don't know what it was. Anyway, all right. Herbie Hancock, thank you. Oh, I'm thinking like all the records. I'm thinking about, you know, the 80s videos, and I've got that my master class thing, and I watched his master class. I can't remember his name. Ridiculous, you know. You get your neighbor. Your neighbor's got a handyman YouTube channel. Now my neighbors are not handy. After punching through my wall once, a brick wall. Yeah, that was fun. But your neighbors, so you got to work these things out. All right, any other questions, guys? Oh, somebody asked earlier, I'm using 10s. I use 10s on my Strat, and I use 10s on my Les Paul. I don't really switch up string gauges. I just kind of stick with those. Any guitar, I'm usually putting 10s on. Every once in a while, when I had my Collings, which I missed, but I sold it to get my old Strat, so it's like, okay, cool, that was good. I put 10.5s on it, because sometimes certain guitars, the 11s were too heavy, 10s were too light. The 10.5s worked out great. Okay, so thanks for everybody for being here. Really appreciate it as always, Phil Mingen. Thank you for everything you do, and everyone who is here. Also, like I said, we'll not be here next week. We'll be down at TrueFire and shooting some stuff for you guys and myself. If you liked what you saw today, and everybody who hit the tip jar, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Also, if you want to learn more about Jeff Beck, I do have my course with Brett Papa called British Blues Rock Masters, and it's David Gilmour, Jeff Beck, Jimmy Page, and Eric Clapton. And I think you'd dig it. I hope you guys who dug this, you would dig that. And, you know, it is the way I make my living, so if you are so inclined, it really helps me out a lot, and I appreciate that. One last question. What's the tone difference between Jeff Beck using a Les Paul versus the Fender? You know, the funny thing is, not a whole hell of a lot, in my mind. He still sounds like Jeff Beck. He says, he sounds as most like him on a Fender, and I think that's because of the bar. But in terms of single coils versus humbuckers, I don't hear him. You know, it was Robin Ford who said it. We were talking about Jeff Beck. He goes, Robin doesn't love Strats. We've talked about this because they sound like Strats. And I said, well, Jeff Beck uses them. And he goes, yeah, but he doesn't sound like he's playing a Strat. And if you think about it, it is actually pretty true. Like, When I think of a Strat tone, I think of Hendrix or Stevie or later Eric Clapton. But I'm most thinking of Hendrix and Stevie, right? Those, when I think about Strat, those are sort of like the consummate Strat tones. And Beck's playing a Strat, but it never sounds like that. So Robin had a good point. He sounds like he could have been playing humbuckers and all that. Okay, that's all I got for you guys today. Thanks so much for everybody. See you in 2 weeks. And yeah, stay safe, everyone. All right. Thanks, everyone.